Sometime last week, I had a memory of my time in school, and it had to do with projects, presentation projects. Back in the day, you could use boards, construction paper, and oftentimes there were presentation assignments that involved you designing some kind of poster and you had to color it, describe it. And I guess it depended on what kind of teacher you had and what the intended purpose was. You may have received a different piece of advice. And I'm going to tell you which type of student I guess I was and how I was never good with presentations until I realized that, yeah, I can do it if it's on a topic that I actually care about. So the earliest memory I can think of that I remember vividly, I was assigned to do a report on Iraq. And I guess it was because of the conflict that the Middle Eastern areas have always been under. And I hated that because I wanted to do something fun and exciting. Why can you not give me a place like Nepal so I can talk about the Himalayan mountains? That's my science geology brain at work for you. Or why couldn't you give me the Hawaiian Islands so that I can talk about volcanoes and shit? But this was a social studies class. Social studies was the class that I naturally hated. Here I am being given a project to discuss a country, just talk about a country, attractions, or what it is that's going on within that country. And I have all these ideas about how I'm going to go about it. I'm going to focus on the natural aspect of things. I'm going to describe landmarks and the environment, what the weather is, what the rock formations they have are, yada yada, my geology / meteorology kicking in. But then my teacher assigned that one out. He already had predetermined who was going to get which country. Some people got France, some people got England, some people got Brazil, everybody got something relatively fun, relatively cool, something that you can associate as positive. But he gave me Iraq. And because I hated it so much, I decided that I was going to turn it into the most boring presentation ever because I knew that the expectation was high on me because I was the top student, I was the smart one, I was the one who always created the best presentations and shit. And I just resented that so much. And the teacher even made a comment about how he expects me to include newspaper articles. And I'm like, motherfucker, why? Just why? Why? I was so angry. I resented that so much because Iraq is a place I would have never considered, ever. I would have probably done Egypt for the sake of the pyramids and how I liked studying about pharaohs. But outside of that, a war-ridden place at the time, it just bothered me so much. So anyway, I remember that I had like my poster board. It was white. I left it kind of plain to represent how I felt about the assignment as well. And I had some newspaper articles and I filled up the page with nothing but text. And I sat there and I read it. And I read it with like the most boring, monotone voice that I had. It was something like, so the country of Iraq is located, blah, blah, blah. It is blah, blah, blah. The capital is this and that. And the people here are going through blah, blah, blah. And this and that and the other. I mean, I was just a soulless monster. But in the past, I remember that I think it was for maybe a year prior to that, I had another social studies class in which that classic project of where in the world would you like to go came up. And of course, everybody used to say France at the time, and I was no different because I liked what I thought French food might be based on what I have heard. Therefore, I said, yeah, sure, I would like to go to Paris, France, look at the Eiffel Tower. But now that I'm grown and now that I'm old, I'm like, why the fuck would I want to see how old is that thing? 100-year-old iron erected on a city that's probably crowded because everybody's always thinking about traveling to France. Now that I'm old, I'm like, what the hell was I thinking as a younger person? And that's the thing, I really wasn't thinking. I was just thinking superficially about what I thought I was seeing in movies and what I thought people were depicting and stuff, but I never really stopped to think about what it meant to be out there in a different place. But I just remember that for my France one, I took the poster board, I folded it into 3 pieces so that it would represent that tricolor, the flag. It had the blue stripe to the left, white in the center, and then the red to the right. And I kind of compartmentalized it. I printed a map that I put behind the poster, like when it was unfolded. You had the map of Europe, but France was more in the center of it. It was like a little zoomed in version, and it was highlighted, of course. And I remember that I colored it a little bit, and then I said, okay, this is France, this is where it's located, this is the capital, this is the president at the time, something like that. And then on the back of it, I don't remember exactly how I divided it, but I remember that on one of the sides or the middle, I had a section that was for culinary focus, another section that was more for the historical focus, and then another one was more about the sciencey side of things, like what their attractions are, landmarks, and what their weather is like, yada yada. And that's it. That was my presentation. It followed what my teachers were advising at the time, particularly with this one. It was, when you create a poster, you create a poster that has more images. Show me and then tell me. Don't tell me and show me very little. Because a lot of people, what they would do is they would have a poster and they would put a lot of words in it. And with a lot of words, you wouldn't have a lot of space to post pictures. And if you don't have a lot of pictures, then you don't have many things to talk about. I was the kind of student who wanted to do that. I wanted to be more of the wordy person and do very few pictures, because I was always that one kid who preferred books that didn't have pictures. And there were a lot of people who preferred picture books, where there are more pictures that fill up a page more than the words. I remember that the teacher said at some point that the whole point of creating the poster is so that you would actually learn the content and you can verbally talk about it. Memorize the city, memorize the capital, memorize the population density, memorize. You have a picture, you can put a caption on it of what it is and where it's at, but tell us about the story. Exercise that brain, retain the material. And when you stand and do your presentation, that's what you're supposed to do. You have more visual representation and you provide the info, you provide the words. Well, that poster was an absolute success. I was happy with it. I had plenty of pictures. The amount of words on the poster, it was pretty minimal. And the level of art that I was using, me personally doing by hand, was fair enough to where I could highlight some things. But I'll never forget that Iraq poster. I did what I wasn't supposed to do technically, which is almost the entire poster had nothing but words. And then I had like a picture of the flag, a picture of where it's at in the map, the capital, and languages, stuff like that. But all I did was just talk about whatever conflict they had going on politically, which I remember nothing about. And as the years progressed, I heard news about Iraq after that project. And then I thought, thank God I don't have that project presently, because now I keep hearing more things about the country and the escalation of the conflict and everything like that. And I'm like, it's just not like a superficially happy place. I just remember what it felt like to have something given to you as opposed to you choosing something. It sucks when you don't choose something, because if you are given something that you're not already pre-inspired for, how can you make a miracle out of that? So I thought I would share with you guys that little anecdote about me. Let me know what it was like for you to have to do presentations in school. Did you hate them? I had my time in which I hated them because I was super shy. But then I told myself, why am I shy? If I'm freaking smart, if I'm a nerd, if I'm studious, then whom better than me as a future teacher wannabe to get up there and do my teachership? So it got to a point where I want to say toward middle school, I became absolutely fond of projects like that. I was excited about the act of constructing my poster, finding the pictures, printing them, cutting them, taping them or gluing them, letting it dry, and then figuring out what else to design. And that's when I discovered that my creative process was amplifying. And I was happy that I had opportunities like that. I always had to have the right project. It's not, oh, on command, you can tell me to create a poster about music and it's gonna happen. Like, well, what about music? Am I going to talk about an instrument? Am I going to talk about an artist in specific? Because if I'm going to talk about a specific artist, I better already like them. Like, if it's going to be a poster about Evanescence and Amy Lee and her music style, it's like, hell yeah, I can do that. I can give you 10 posters within an hour, whatever, I'm down. But if you're going to give me something from like an artist that I really don't know, especially one from decades ago, no, don't expect me to be enthusiastic. Don't expect me to put out a good work, because I'm just not going to. The key to my quality is that I chose something, and I chose something that I was prepared for. But presently, of course, as an adult, you learn to accept that you won't always get things your way. You won't always get the things that you like. I wouldn't allow myself to be present in a place where I know I couldn't thrive. Why would I be in a group that listens to country music if I'm not into country music at all? That is just setting me up for failure. So I guess I can be present in a group that may need help on how to present something. But if you want me to actually run the show, it ain't gonna happen. If you want ideas on how to organize yourself, what kind of supplies to use, how to present your information, how to phrase it, how to word it, what kind of tone to have, what kind of, I guess, presentation posture to have, I can do that. I can coach you all day long. But if you want me to actually be the artist there, not gonna happen. So yeah, I just hope that as an adult, I'm never in that situation where I'm thrown into something that I really don't want to do and I'm judged based on that, but you don't consider the fact that maybe things are different when you actually have a passion for it. See what I mean? All right, guys, that's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know your stories and thoughts, and I'll see you soon.